Welcome. I'd like to provide you with a report on citizen science data from the Curdies catchment. And I would also like to acknowledge the traditional owners on the land on which we meet and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Next slide. Okay, so today's session will be about two things: sharing information on current citizen science programs, including the Estuary Watch and Water Watch long-term water quality monitoring programs, along with a wide variety of short-term citizen science activities. And I'd also like to share a report on the citizen science in the Curdies catchment. It's one of a series of 6 reports in Corangamite. So what is citizen science? It is community participation and collaboration in scientific research with the aim to increase scientific knowledge. Data is collected through observations and measurements, such as using a mobile phone, and can be shared that way and uploaded to data aggregators such as Atlas of Living Australia. Citizen science can also involve data collection that involves developing new skills and knowledge and use of specialised equipment such as water testing equipment, and that's done by programs such as Estuary Watch. It can be done by groups or individuals, and citizen science activities are diverse, accessible and done for a purpose. Estuary Watch, let's start with Estuary Watch. It's one of the long-term water quality monitoring programs that we have, and it's been operating in Victoria since 2006. It monitors estuary health, and as you know already, estuaries are where the river meets the sea, and it's important for social and environmental values. Coastal estuaries provide people with a valuable recreational focus, but it's also important to native fish, birds and vegetation. Estuary Watch data has been used to educate and inform better estuary management, and it's been incorporated into the decision support tool for estuary openings in Victoria. Estuary Watch operates at 11 estuaries in our region. The volunteers, and we recognise the important volunteers at the Curdies, they are the eyes and the ears for the estuary, and they are observers of gauge heights, algal blooms, fish deaths and storm surge responses. The activities in Estuary Watch include photo point monitoring, which involves photos taken from a fixed photo point site, and it's used to observe and document the environmental change occurring on a waterway over time. For instance, the fluker posts overlooking the beach at Peterborough. Monthly tests include top to bottom estuary measurements, including dissolved oxygen, temperature, pH, which involves the acid or the alkalinity of the water, electrical conductivity, which reflects the salinity of the water, turbidity, which reflects the clarity of the water. And water quality parameters can reflect seasonal flow change and impacts from upstream extent of seawater, as well as upstream inputs. Mouth condition monitoring observes the presence or absence of flow and the amount of sand in a berm that's stopping a river. Water Watch is a program, it's one of the long-term water quality programs as well, that's been operating in Victoria since 1993, and it monitors sources like rivers, lakes and wetlands in the catchment. The monitoring undertaken by Water Watch program follows standardised methodologies in field manuals to ensure that Water Watch produces credible data of a known quality. Volunteers can be in land care, friends of groups, individuals or schools through the River Detectives program. Monthly water tests include dissolved oxygen, temperature, pH, electrical conductivity, turbidity, and also reactive phosphorus, which reflects nutrient input into the river or waterway. Water quality parameters can reflect seasonal flow changes and impacts from upstream rural inputs. These might be natural, agricultural, grazing or groundwater, and also urban inputs like stormwater or pollutants. Habitat surveys are also done, and they're used to evaluate the condition of bank and verge vegetation, in-stream vegetation, such as aquatic plants, bank stability, such as erosion processes, and channel complexity. And we include things like pools and riffles in that complexity. And also something that's really popular is waterbug surveys. Waterbug surveys, also called aquatic macroinvertebrates, measure the diversity and abundance of creatures like insects and creatures without a backbone. So they could be worms, snails, things like that. And it's used to assess waterway condition. And it's a lot of fun doing that too. Monthly water tests include, oh, that's been done. All right, so what happens to the data? The data is then collected and loaded onto the Estuary Watch and Water Watch big data portal, and it can be viewed spatially across the state. So just clicking on a site will take you to a site overview where the water quality data is summarised. It was great that Sarah was able to demonstrate earlier how information about Estuary Watch is just a click away from that map on the CCMA website. Information from the portal includes graphs and statistics that can be downloaded. Now, another type of citizen science activity that's occurred in the Curdies River is eDNA sampling for Yarra pygmy perch. I hope that some of the people that are present here today were part of that sampling program because it was done with the community. eDNA enables the detection of species from environmental samples through the analysis of the DNA released by organisms into their environment, such as shed skin cells or hair from an animal. Community members can be involved and they receive training on site in sample collection. They also photograph the site and then take note of habitat values. So the fish involved in this case is the Yarra pygmy perch, and it's classified nationally as vulnerable. It's a pale brownish grey colour and it grows up to 7.5 centimetres. Its preferred habitat are streams that are alkaline with a high mineral content, and this fish prefers slow-moving rivers with an abundance of aquatic vegetation and snags. So in 2019, the CCMA conducted an eDNA survey for Yarra pygmy perch, southern pygmy perch and river blackfish in the Curdies catchment. The Yarra pygmy perch, as I've said, was a vulnerable species, and this survey can help us understand the extent of the population and how we can protect it, such as through habitat restoration. So here we are, we've got some results here. When performed with the community, the technique provides an alternative to live trapping of the fish. Participants do not need to have prior experience, and the activity brings community together with natural resource management. We can see on the graph here, on the map, sorry, that we've got some blue icons, and they're indicating a positive eDNA response. The red ones are the negative ones. So we see that at the lower end of Scotts Creek and the midsection of the Curdies, we've got presence of the Yarra pygmy perch, and that represents approximately 65 kilometres of waterway. So this brings me to the second part of my talk for today. Something I wanted to talk to you about is a report that's been done over the COVID quiet time that we had being working from home. We did an analysis and interpretation of citizen science data from various landscape zones in the CMA, including the Curdies, to assess data collected by citizen scientists from sites in the Curdies River, Scotts Creek, and the Curdies River estuary. The purpose of the report and summary brochure is to inform and increase the knowledge of citizen scientists and the broader community of the health of the waterways in the Corangamite region. The report assesses data from 2011 to 2020, and all data, summary statistics and graphs were downloaded from the Estuary Watch and Water Watch data portals. The water quality data was analysed to determine trends over time and across catchments, and these were compared with the Victorian State Environmental Protection Policy, also called SEP, waters for environmental quality objectives. So this little map is taken from the summary document. The number of monitoring events at each site varied across the catchment. Now, there was a total of 7 Waterwatch sites and 2 estuary sites assessed. Many of the Waterwatch sites were irregularly monitored, and that's why we don't have some strong results there for the upstream sites. And one site was monitored as part of the fish eDNA project in 2019. 5 of the Waterwatch sites were on Scotts Creek, a major tributary of the Curdies River, from 2011 to 2014. There were 11 events following high rainfall in the local catchment to assess impacts on the waterway at these times. And 2 Estuary Watch sites were monitored from 2013 to 2020. The monitoring undertaken in the upper catchment of the Curdies River indicate that the waterway was in a marginal to moderate condition. Monitoring in the Scotts Creek following rainfall events indicate high sediment and phosphorus loads are carried in the runoff during these times, and might be linked to reduced riparian vegetation along the waterway. I think Jean will speak more to this a bit later. Further down the catchment, monitoring was undertaken during the fish eDNA project and suggests water quality improvement occurs. And at that site, low salinity and turbidity was seen. So that site was at the Trestle Bridge near Timboon. And also improved oxygen levels, indicating the waterway to be in moderate condition. All riverine sites indicated there was a high phosphorus input into the Curdies River, and high phosphorus inputs can lead to excessive plant and algal growth, while high sediment inputs can smother submerged aquatic vegetation and habitat for fish and water bugs. But this report really shines a light on the estuary because we've seen that the estuary was monitored from 2014 to 2020. The water quality was moderate to good. And you can see in the little boxes at the bottom of the screen, we've got some indicators that line up with the legend. We've got some excellent water quality and some marginal water quality, and I'll just explain those. So the water quality was moderate to good, displaying mostly healthy oxygen levels. Oxygen levels were marginally below the State Environment Protection Policy objectives in the top waters of the upper estuary and exceeded the upper limit on only one occasion in the lower estuary, indicating potential algal growth. The pH levels were mostly healthy through, though marginally exceeded in the upper State Environment Protection Policy objective. And mostly low turbidity was observed. Again, though marginally indicated by those yellow signals, they were exceeded in the lower estuary. So being an intermittently open estuary, salinity levels varied through the estuary, being fresh to brackish in the upper estuary and brackish to saltwater in the lower estuary. And most of the openings that were observed in the Estuary Watch database occurred in winter. Both of the full and summary reports are available on the Corangamite CCMA knowledge base. And I've put that into the chat box so that you can find those locations. So one of the recommendations of the report was to expand the Waterwatch monitoring to include monthly visits to give a better assessment of the complete catchment. So with your help, we can improve the CCMA's monitoring efforts. So we're asking, can you join an Estuary Watch team for one morning a month? Training and resources will be provided. So we need help not only at the Curdies River estuary, but also at the Jellybrand River. And also we're going to reinvigorate the Waterwatch monitoring that's occurring upstream. So if you've got time, one morning a month to be on the Curdies for water quality testing and learn more about water bugs, please come along and help us out. Further information regarding waterway citizen science, including monitoring methods, data collection and assessments, can be obtained from the Waterwatch and Estuary Watch websites, as well as the CCMA website. And that's me. Thank you.
Thanks, Deirdre. Just want to stop sharing your screen. Awesome. We've had a few more questions come through the chat. We will get back to those. We just want to get on to our last presenter of the day, which is Jean Gardner, who's our Land and Catchment Health Officer